Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. She walks into the room, and suddenly everyone forgets how to pretend. There's no thunder, no announcement, no flashing lights. Just an energy shift so real you could bottle it, sell it, and bankrupt every self-help guru alive. Here's a fact. According to psychologists, people fear what they can't predict or control. Now imagine a woman who can't be decoded, doesn't need your validation, and has absolutely no interest in playing the social game you were raised on. Yeah, that's not just intimidating, that's a full-blown existential crisis for most people. Sigma females don't scream power, they radiate it quietly, like a storm building behind clear skies. They don't have to dominate you, they just have to exist. And somehow you feel exposed, off balance, and maybe just a little bit like you're about to be outplayed in a game you didn't even know you were in. So, buckle up. Because by the time we're done, you won't just understand why people fear Sigma females. You'll start to wonder if you've ever actually met one, or if you survived it. And if you are one, well, grab a cup of tea and enjoy the psychological demolition job we're about to unpack, and try not to smirk too loud. Number 1. She doesn't advertise her power, she embodies it. She doesn't walk around bragging about who she is or what she's capable of. She's not interested in being the loudest voice in the room. In fact, most people completely underestimate her at first glance. She's quiet, calm, composed. And that's exactly where the fear begins, because her power isn't broadcasted, it's embodied. There's something unsettling about someone who doesn't need to announce themselves. No validation seeking, no self-promotion, no desperate need to prove a point. And yet, her presence commands attention in ways even she's not fully aware of. People sense something they can't quite name. It's not arrogance, it's not pride, it's certainty, a kind of internal authority that doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. Others try to figure her out, pin her down, define her. They fumble around looking for flaws, cracks, weaknesses, something that would explain why she's so unaffected, so composed, so unfazed. But she gives them nothing. No obvious trigger points. No insecurity to play with, no blueprint to read her. She's just there, unshaken, unbothered, and uninterested in competing with anyone. And that kind of stillness makes people nervous. It's not that she's hiding something. It's that she has nothing to prove. And in a world obsessed with performance, that alone is terrifying. She doesn't peacock, she doesn't over-explain, she doesn't fight to be seen, because real power doesn't beg for attention. It draws it effortlessly. People feel the difference and don't know what to do with it. It confuses the ones who rely on intimidation. It frustrates those used to controlling narratives. It unsettles the crowd who feed on approval and applause. Because next to her, their noise feels like noise, and their masks start to itch. She doesn't expose people with words. She does it by being exactly who she is. And that quiet authenticity holds up a mirror most people weren't ready to look into. It's not what she says that makes them fear her. It's what they realize about themselves in her presence. That's the kind of fear that lingers. It's not loud, it's not violent, it's surgical. And the worst part, she never even raised her voice. Number 2, she makes people feel seen, too deeply. She doesn't just look at people, she sees them, past the surface, past the performance, right into the places they try to bury under achievements, humor, filters, and fake confidence. While most people are busy managing their image, she's already reading the energy behind the smile, the tension in the jaw, the silence between their words. And it's not something she turns on, it's just how she exists. People don't realize how naked they feel around her until it's too late. This is where the discomfort begins. Most folks are used to being half seen. They're comfortable staying vague and misunderstood, hiding behind social roles, trauma stories, and carefully crafted versions of themselves. But she's not playing along. She doesn't feed the illusion. She quietly sees what's real, and that unsettles people. Not because she says anything cruel, but because she doesn't buy into the mask they're selling. She knows when you're lying to yourself. And the scariest part, she won't even correct you. She'll just look at you like, you know that's not true. That silent recognition. The way her presence forces people to feel seen in places they didn't want anyone to look, is exactly why she unnerves so many. It's not about exposing people in public or calling anyone out. It's worse. She holds space for your truth without flinching. and suddenly you're the one squirming, second-guessing, questioning everything you thought you had under control. The average person spends their whole life trying to be understood while simultaneously hiding their most vulnerable self. And she walks in like a walking contradiction to that game. She understands you too well, without effort, without agenda, just presence, just clarity, just awareness. And that kind of perception? It's not a gift to everyone. To the insecure, the manipulative, the fake, it's a direct threat. Because when she sees you, she sees all of you. And some people aren't ready to face the version of themselves they've been avoiding in the mirror. But she sees it anyway. And worse, she never unsees it. Number 3. She's as comfortable in her solitude as most are in relationships. She doesn't treat solitude like a punishment. It's her preferred environment. Where others need constant connection to feel validated or safe, she operates just fine in her own space, on her own terms, with no one to entertain, impress, or appease. She's not running from loneliness. She's at home in it. That alone disarms people because society is wired to see aloneness as a red flag. But for her, it's a green light, freedom, clarity, and power. She doesn't use independence as some rebellious mask to hide pain. It's not a coping mechanism. It's not fake strength. It's a grounded choice. She's tasted dependence, seen where it leads, and built a life that doesn't rely on constant companionship to feel whole. That kind of self-sufficiency makes people uncomfortable, especially those who secretly depend on being needed, desired, or constantly relevant to someone else's emotional ecosystem. And that's the threat. She's unleverageable. You can't threaten her with absence. You can't bait her with attention. You can't guilt her into staying. Because she doesn't stay to avoid being alone. She stays only when it's real, reciprocal, and rooted in respect, not desperation. Relationships for her aren't oxygen. They're optional. And that scares people who treat connection like a lifeline. She's not chasing someone to complete her story. She's already the entire book. Most people fear being forgotten, but she fears being compromised. That's why she walks away when others would cling. That's why she doesn't perform to be chosen. She chooses herself, and she means it. People throw the word independent around like a trend. She lives it, and not in a loud look-at-me way. In a way that says, I am at peace with myself. I like my own company. I trust my own silence more than your noise. In a world that trains women to fear solitude, she mastered it. And that mastery makes her immune to emotional manipulation, because no one controls the one who doesn't need to be held. Number 4, her silence is often louder than other people's screams. Her silence isn't passive, it's surgical. When she stops speaking, it's not because she's lost the words, it's because she knows the noise around her is too shallow to deserve them. And the moment she goes quiet, people feel it. Not just hear it, feel it. The energy shifts, the room tightens. Even the ones who claim not to care start fidgeting, because her silence doesn't disappear. It hovers, it exposes, it amplifies whatever truth people are trying to avoid. She doesn't use silence as a weapon. It's just that she understands its power. While others yell to be heard or argue to dominate, she retreats into quiet, and suddenly the mirror turns. People aren't battling her anymore. They're battling their own conscience. Her lack of response becomes the loudest judgment. You start questioning yourself, replaying your words, wondering what she saw, what she knows, what she's thinking, but she gives you nothing. And in that nothing, people unravel. That's what most don't understand. Her silence isn't the absence of communication. It's a presence so intense, so heavy with awareness, it forces people to hear themselves. Not the version they perform for others. The raw, unfiltered version they spend years avoiding. Her quiet makes space for the truth no one wants to confront. And when someone knows they've crossed a line, when they've lied, manipulated, disrespected her, that silence becomes unbearable, because she won't yell, plead, or demand apologies. She'll simply withdraw and let your guilt do the talking. People can handle confrontation, they can rationalize it, defend against it, push back, but you can't argue with silence. You can only sit in it and wonder if you just lost something you'll never get back. The silence of a Sigma female is never empty. It's never weak. It's a calculated pause that lets truth echo louder than any scream ever could. And by the time you realize what her silence meant, it's usually too late. Because if she ever does speak again, it won't be to explain. It'll be to close the door. Number 5. You realize too late that you never really knew her. She's the kind of woman who can be around you every day, share deep conversations, laugh with you, even cry with you, and still, you'll only know pieces of her. Not because she's being fake, not because she's hiding something sinister, but because she never puts her entire self on display. What you see is real, but it's not the full picture. It's never the full picture. She gives what's necessary, what's earned, and what feels safe. The rest? It stays behind the velvet rope of her inner world. People often mistake access for intimacy. Just because she lets you in the room doesn't mean you've reached the vault. You think you know her because she listens well, remembers the smallest details, makes you feel seen. But that's the trap. You feel known, while she remains a mystery. And she prefers it that way. She's mastered the balance of connection without exposure, closeness without surrender. You only get as much of her as she decides, and she decides without ever making it obvious. And then one day, she's gone. Not with fireworks, not with drama, just gone. No explanation, no meltdown, no long speech. And that's when it hits. Not just the loss, but the haunting realization that you never truly knew who she was. You replay every interaction, every word, trying to find clues, trying to make sense of the silence. But the more you search, the more you realize. You only ever saw the parts she allowed. That's the part that lingers. The unanswered questions, the blank spaces, the feeling that you missed something important right in front of you. It's not just her absence that hurts, it's the incompleteness, the way she vanished and left behind a version of herself that can't be replicated, explained, or replaced. She doesn't fake depth. She just doesn't hand it over. And if you didn't take the time to really see her, if you assumed she'd always be there, always revealing, always available, you'll learn too late that she was never someone you could fully possess. She was only someone you had the privilege to encounter, briefly. Number 6. She speaks the kind of truth that burns bridges permanently. When she speaks the truth, it doesn't come wrapped in diplomacy or softened for comfort. It comes raw, sharpened, and surgically precise. Not because she's cruel, but because she's done playing nice with lies. Her truth doesn't ask for permission or acceptance. It doesn't try to preserve egos or maintain peace at the cost of authenticity. It's not designed to fix the relationship. It's designed to expose it. People say they want honesty until they meet someone who actually delivers it without apology. She doesn't filter her words to keep the room calm. She says what needs to be said, even if it burns the whole damn room down. And when she speaks, it's not to win the argument, it's to dismantle the illusion. That's what makes her dangerous in the eyes of fragile people. Because she won't gaslight herself to protect your feelings. She won't cushion the truth just to keep you comfortable. If the connection survives her truth, it was real. If it doesn't, then it wasn't worth keeping. That's the risk she's willing to take. And that's what most people can't handle. Her truth has weight. It hits people in places they thought were safely buried. And once she says what she sees, you can't unhear it. You can't go back to pretending. She exposes the cracks no one else dares to name. And that kind of exposure either makes you rise or makes you run. The scariest part? She rarely says it out of anger. It's usually calm, collected, almost too quiet. And that calmness is what makes it hit even harder. Because when someone speaks the truth with no emotional charge, you know they've thought it through. You know it's final. She's not speaking to hurt you. She's speaking to free herself. And once her truth is spoken, the bridge either becomes stronger than steel, or it turns to ash behind her with no regret. Either way, she won't be standing on it hoping you understand. She said what she said, and she meant every word. Number 7. She doesn't react. She studies. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't scramble to defend herself or chase after someone's approval. When something disturbing happens, whether it's a subtle insult, an act of betrayal, or a clear attempt at manipulation, she doesn't explode. She observes, and that unnerves people more than any argument ever could. Most are conditioned to equate silence with submission. But hers isn't the silence of someone who's unsure of herself, it's the silence of someone processing every detail with surgical precision. She notices what you said and what you didn't. She registers your tone, your timing, your micro-expressions, your contradictions. While others are caught up in emotional chaos, she's pulling back, zooming out, and collecting patterns. The manipulator's worst nightmare is someone who doesn't fall for the bait. Someone who doesn't defend herself emotionally because she doesn't need to. She knows reacting is what gives them power. So she doesn't give them that satisfaction. She just watches, stores, remembers, and waits. She's not planning revenge. She's measuring you, assessing how much you revealed about yourself while trying to trigger her. She might not say a word in the moment, but she's already made a mental note, and once she's seen a crack in your integrity, she rarely unsees it. People don't know what to do with someone who doesn't react on cue. They expect emotional responses they can manipulate, arguments they can twist, or apologies they can exploit. But when they get stillness, calm, silence, that's when their own guilt and insecurity get loud. That's when the power dynamic flips, quietly, completely. She doesn't need to confront you to understand you. She just watches long enough for the truth to reveal itself. Because most people eventually expose themselves when they think no one's paying attention. But she's always paying attention. And by the time you realize she wasn't confused or hurt, just studying, you'll also realize something else. Whatever relationship you had with her has already shifted, and you probably won't get the same version of her ever again. Number 8. She knows exactly what you're hiding, but says nothing. She sees straight through people. Not just what they say, but what they're trying not to say. The way your eyes shift when you speak. The hesitation before you answer. The way your tone changes when the truth gets too close. She catches it all, and she doesn't need to confront you to confirm it. Your energy already gave you away. The unsettling part? She won't call you out, not immediately. She'll just watch you lie to her face with a calm expression that feels almost too calm. No raised eyebrows, no dramatic reaction, just silence, stillness, maybe even a slight smile. And that's what makes it terrifying, because deep down, you know she knows. Most people lie because they assume they can get away with it. But when you lie to her, something inside you starts unraveling almost instantly. Not because she threatens you, but because her stillness acts like a mirror. She reflects your dishonesty back to you without lifting a finger. And the guilt? It starts growing in the silence she leaves behind. She doesn't expose people right away because she doesn't need to. She gives them enough rope to show her who they are, not who they pretend to be. And when the time comes, when the mask finally slips, it's not a shock to her. She already saw it miles before it happened. She just waited for you to catch up. Her silence isn't ignorance, it's strategy. It's the grace she gives you before she makes her next move. She might let you continue thinking she's unaware, while she's already emotionally detaching, making decisions, preparing for the exit you won't see coming. And when she finally walks away, you'll scramble for answers. But the truth is, you gave her all of them yourself. She was just watching you reveal them in real time. She doesn't confront liars to hear the truth. She already has it. She just watches to see how long you'll keep performing. And by the time you realize the performance is over, she's already gone. Number 9. You can't influence her with status or titles. She couldn't care less about the badges people wear to feel important. CEO, PhD, billionaire, blue check, trust fund, it all means nothing if there's no substance behind it. While most people are conditioned to bow, impress, or shrink in the presence of status, she remains completely unmoved. Not out of rebellion, but because she simply doesn't assign value to superficial power. She sees straight through it. The titles you brag about, the numbers you flex, the curated life you post for strangers, none of it registers with her as impressive. She's more interested in how you treat the waiter when no one's watching, in whether your words match your behavior, in whether your so-called success actually cost you your soul. That's her currency, not clout, and that's exactly why powerful people don't know what to do with her. They're used to being admired, feared, or envied. They're used to people leaning in, trying to impress, trying to belong. But when she enters the room, she doesn't adjust herself. She doesn't chase proximity. She doesn't care how many people want your autograph. She's already signed her own permission slip. That kind of self-possession is rare and unsettling because it puts everyone, no matter how powerful, on equal footing. You could be rich or unknown, famous or invisible, and she'll treat you based on your integrity, not your resume. And if that threatens your ego, that's not her problem. She doesn't feed empires built on insecurity. You can't buy her respect. You can't charm your way into her trust. You can't leverage your name to gain access. She only opens to authenticity, to depth, to character, and that makes her immune to a world built on image, hierarchy, and illusion. She doesn't disrespect power, she just doesn't worship it. And when someone realizes their influence has no effect on her, a strange fear kicks in. The fear of being truly seen without the armor of status. And that's when it hits. She's the one in the room with real power, not the one with the crown. Number 10. She can strip the illusion off your identity with one sentence. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need paragraphs. She speaks with the kind of precision that feels less like an opinion and more like a scalpel to the soul. One sentence, delivered without malice, without emotion, without warning, and suddenly the entire facade someone's built around their identity starts to crack. She has an unnerving ability to spot the exact lie you've told yourself to survive. The story you repeat to feel noble. The version of you that sounds good out loud but doesn't match how you move when no one's watching. And with just one line, she slices it clean open, not to hurt you, but because she can't pretend not to see what's there. It's never loud or dramatic. It's always quiet, clean, direct. A sentence so sharp it feels like she read your diary, saw through your mask, and condensed your entire illusion into one brutal observation. Something like, you don't actually want love, you just want control that looks like love. Or, you only play the hero because you're terrified of being irrelevant. And just like that, the room goes cold. You feel exposed, disarmed, defenseless. Because she didn't insult you, she diagnosed you, and there's no comeback for that. There's no debate to win, only silence. Only the weight of truth sitting on your chest like a cinder block. Most people avoid that level of truth. They sugarcoat, soften, spin things into polite suggestions. Not her. She respects truth too much to dilute it. And she doesn't say it to change you. She says it because pretending otherwise would be a betrayal of what she knows deep down to be real. The scariest part? She's not angry. She's not trying to tear you down. She's just holding up the mirror. And it's not her voice that stings. It's the fact that, deep down, you already knew she was right. Her words don't explode. They echo. And by the time the sentence finishes ringing in your head, you're not even sure who you were before she said it. Number 11. She can abandon you without a single shred of bitterness. She doesn't do emotional explosions, guilt-laced goodbyes, or long-winded explanations. When she's done, not out of spite, not out of rage, but out of clarity. The kind that comes when she's seen too much, felt too much, and realized there's nothing left to salvage. She doesn't need to punish you with her exit, she just leaves, quietly, finally, completely. And that's what shakes people to their core, because most are used to some kind of emotional mess when things fall apart. Tears, blame, bargaining, one last fight, but with her, there's nothing, no closure, no chase, just a clean, surgical absence. One day she's there, watching, observing, giving you space to shift. The next, she's gone. No announcement, no performance, no loose threads. People call her cold because they don't understand the depth she gave before she walked. She loved with her full presence, her time, her insight. She gave warnings without saying the words directly. She watched the red flags stack up, hoping maybe, just maybe, you'd course correct. But once the internal switch flips, she doesn't need closure or conflict. She just removes herself. What terrifies people most is the speed and silence of her withdrawal. It forces them to confront how much they took her for granted, how long they thought they had time, how convinced they were that she'd always be there. And now there's just a vacuum, no words to fight, no body to chase, no signal she's watching from afar. She's not watching. She's already rewritten the chapter. She doesn't leave to provoke a reaction. She leaves to protect her peace. And once she reclaims it, you don't get a second chance. Because when a Sigma female walks away without bitterness, it means she left before she hated you. And that's far more terrifying than someone who slams doors. Bitterness keeps you tethered. She doesn't tether. She disappears, like a lesson you never bothered to learn. And you'll feel her absence longer than you ever felt her presence. Number 12. She knows her darkness and isn't ashamed of it. She doesn't pretend to be all light, all love, all perfect timing and grace. She knows exactly what lives in the darker corners of her soul, the rage that simmers, the grief that still haunts her, the flaws she's had to stare down in silence. And instead of hiding them, she's learned to sit with them, understand them, accept them. She doesn't run from her shadow, she walks with it, and that's where her real strength comes from. Most people fear being exposed. They build their whole identity around denial, denying what they've done, how they feel, what they've become. But not her. She's done the ugly inner work. She's looked herself in the mirror on the worst day of her life and didn't look away. So if you think you can hurt her by pointing out her past, good luck. She's already faced it head on, and she's still standing. You can't guilt her into submission. You can't shame her into silence. That power has expired, because when someone accepts their darkness, they become unblackmailable. She's not interested in pretending to be better than she is. She knows she's complex. She knows she's been the storm and the calm after it. And she carries both like armor, not baggage. What makes her different isn't that she's flawless. It's that she doesn't fake anything. She's not trying to perform emotional purity or spiritual perfection. She's raw, real, and self-aware enough to say, yes, I've messed up. Yes, I've been hurt. And no, you don't get to use that against me. People try to provoke her, dig into her past, weaponize her emotions, but it doesn't work. Because nothing you say about her could ever be more brutal than what she's already admitted to herself in silence. That kind of self-ownership is terrifying to those who still wear masks. She doesn't need to be saved. She's not waiting to be redeemed. She's already integrated all the parts of her that others were told to hide. And that makes her impossible to control. The fear a Sigma female evokes isn't loud. It isn't chaotic. It isn't obvious. It's the kind that creeps in slowly, the kind that whispers in the back of your mind long after she's left the room. It's not because she's aggressive or hostile. It's because she forces people to confront truths they've spent years avoiding. Her presence exposes. Her silence amplifies. Her absence haunts. She doesn't use fear as a weapon. She becomes feared because she refuses to be controlled, manipulated, or defined. In a world addicted to performance, noise, and validation, she's a glitch in the system. A woman who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, and doesn't need anyone to feel complete. And that's what truly terrifies people. So the next time someone says she's intimidating, understand what they're really saying. She couldn't be owned. She couldn't be played. She saw too much, spoke too clearly, and walked away too clean. And in a society built on power games and fragile egos, that kind of woman is the one they fear the most. If you felt this on a soul level, don't forget to like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because this is just the beginning of uncovering the depth and truth that most people are too afraid to say out loud. See you in the next one. Stay sharp. Stay sovereign.